Welcome, Virgo, to your in-depth weekly astrology overview and zodiac forecast for week commencing the 27th of April for the ascendant, the sun, or the moon. Going to share with you the big themes of the week ahead first, then on screen, your event chart on Monday. Always provides an influential backdrop, Virgo. I'm then going to go through the influences frame by frame to give you a clear picture of what you can expect by the end of the video in terms of your energy, work, relationships, and finances. I'm astrologer Patrick Arundel. A very warm welcome. If you've yet to subscribe to my channel, please do so now to help it to continue to thrive. But please also click or tap the bell notification symbol. As last week came to a close, you may have felt really quite restless. Now, you're a person who has a fantastic appreciation of fulfilling obligations in a very conscientious way. But if you did find yourself wanting to kick back and do something rather different, it wouldn't be a surprise. I'm going to explain to you why. But also, as this week goes on, the chance to think about reimagining your connection to the world, particularly around your career, is just going to grow stronger. But if you go about it in your inimitable, careful, but precise way, there really are some fabulous chances for you to thrive. But we do have at the heart of the week a full moon. And that on Friday is also the first day of May. It's uh, a full moon, a flower moon in the intense sign of Scorpio. What does that mean for you? That's the third house of quick communication, rather Gemini-like, even though the host can be very intense. On the opposite side of the heavens, the sun is in the freedom-loving ninth house. I'm going to explain that for you too. But right at the end of this week, Virgo, your ruling planet Mercury is going to be relocating. And actually, I'm really excited to tell you about that too. So on the screen now, your event chart. First of all, we need to look at the dynamic duo of Uranus and Venus. So there they are right at the top of your chart. So the most visible players at the top of the Northern Hemisphere. And for the next 7 years, Uranus suggests that even if you enjoy what you're doing now, somehow the environment around you could change, or perhaps you can be surprised by how you change in your approach to that role. However, late last week, this duo were right at the end of your fellow Earth sign of Taurus. If you've got the sudden desire to book a holiday, take a day off, spend time with some unusual but stimulating people, good for you. But as we start this week, they're into the sign of Gemini, and in the case of Uranus, for the long term. And it can be a radical influence, it can shake things up, and therefore it can be challenging. But what Uranus is truly about is trying to push us to get in touch with our higher purpose. And if things have got a bit stale for you, particularly at work, perhaps reinvent yourself in some kind of way. Now, if you work in a professional environment where you wear quite smart clothes, you might want to give yourself some kind of uh, reignition in terms of your personal image as we go into this new week. But there was a quite serious aspect which played out over the weekend, one of astrology's most challenging ones, to be honest. The sun in the free-spirited ninth house has been asking you over the last week, and Uranus over the last 7 years, to think about changing things up a little bit, being a bit more in the moment and spontaneous. Of course, the host, the Earth sign of Taurus, like your sign, wants to see some kind of tangible outcome. But the sun squared off with Pluto exactly over the weekend. It only happens twice a year. Pluto can be about power, but it can also be about what's not obvious. And maybe it's not been so obvious to you, not because you're not looking, but just because you are so conscientious. You take your uh, job, your role, and the processes seriously, and you deliver consistently. But somehow or another, particularly with that dynamic duo in that connection late in Taurus as the week drew to a close last Friday, yeah, suddenly you might have thought, what I've done for a long time just seems a little bit dull. or oppressive, or it's holding me back in some kind of way. Now, if you did feel a sense of resentment, you really need to listen to that. But if it's just a passing phase and you just need to change things up in an immediate sense, fine. But as you come into this week, if you're truly unsettled by your everyday routines and they do feel rather too repetitive, I think you're really being ushered towards making some dynamic changes. Now, on the face of it, that can feel a bit daunting, but I want you to have confidence about that. Take Venus right at the top of your chart. If you're a creative person, you have good design skills or artistic skills, or you can teach or train or inspire people. Venus can be very much about fashion, trends, taste. It's not just about money and relationships. And she forges a stunning link with the planet of images, Neptune, at the very start of this week, but in your eighth house of longer term money. So that's inspirational. Also, as she moves on forwards, she comes into a link with Pluto. If you talk to someone, maybe in your existing organization, if you just want to change of role, or it could be a recruitment agency, it may be a potential employer or a client that you're trying to bag, you might be surprised by what a connection you have to someone you meet this week. Now, it could be romantic, and it may come through a very worker a day environment, just suddenly out of nowhere. You're in an office, you're walking across some kind of situation, you're traveling somewhere, and there's this dazzling connection. That is possible, but it may be in the professional context too. And just know also, Mercury, your ruler, continues its journey in the right angle with Jupiter, urging you to perhaps use your resources in a way that inspires you, the 11th house, but also for your long-term future good. But that brings us to Venus moving forwards and then linking back to Saturn. If you are able to couple or share with people, not only the fact that you can connect to them in a diplomatic way, but also understand the solid results they want, you could seriously impress someone professionally towards the end of this week. But then we have the full moon, the flower moon in Scorpio, where the moon is in its full FALL, its second least favorite position after being in Capricorn, where it's detrimented. What does that mean? Well, we have the sun in the ninth house, higher purpose, principles, philosophy, travel, education, training, publishing, can be to do with personal freedom and independence. The third house is quick communication, but the moon and the third house don't make great bedfellows, and the moon in Scorpio can be a bit anxious. So just be aware that if you have a quick conversation with someone, that you start reading into it things that aren't necessarily exactly right. And part of that could be because Pluto is intersecting the pair of them broadly in a T square. And it may be because you're a little resistant to opening yourself up to a new way of doing things. Maybe technology, maybe relocation, maybe moving into a completely different sector where you can use your very solid skills, but in a fresh way. If you're resisting that, the conversations you have on that full moon could feel quite challenging. But what's going to help you superbly, Virgo, is at the end of this week on Sunday, your ruler Mercury darts into Taurus. There, it helps you to evaluate the practical benefits, which you really appreciate, but it also gives you a bit more confidence to be outgoing, uh, to update your curriculum vitae, to reach out to a recruitment company. If you are someone with a message you want to share through your channel, Mercury being in the ninth house will help you to convey that message in a way which intrigues and engages people, but also can monetize it as well. Now, I'm going to summarize those four areas of energy, work, relationships and finance next, Virgo. But just to say, I've slashed the price of my personal horoscope reports. You can now get three for the price of one. You order your life roadmap report, totally unique to you, which helps you to understand the patterns that are played out in your life so far, but get a more intimate understanding of them to manage your progress future forwards better. But you get free your 12 months transit forecast and also your draconic soul or karmic analysis too. Please see the link below for more. Why? I know people are feeling the pinch, but secondly, I really passionately want to share natal astrology and how it helps us to understand ourselves to as many people as I possibly can. Share the love. Now, if you've yet to watch your May monthly forecast, Virgo, that's on the screen. If you've yet to watch your Uranus in Gemini 1 year forecast on the screen. If you'd like to work with me one-to-one, it'd be a pleasure. Please check out my testimonials below. And if you have yet to sign up for your free daily written horoscope, fired to your device each morning for your early day celestial pit stop, please take advantage of that now. It's a great chance to look at your ascendant, your sun, your moon, or perhaps the person you're interested in at the current time. Now, to summarize, when it comes to your professional situation, if you're open to flexing and change, this can be a new epoch which is incredibly successful for you. If you're going to resist or be resentful about the need to flex, it could cause some issues. Your long-term financial situation does have Saturn in it in the eighth house, suggesting that the need to reinvent different types of income are possible, but your artistic and creative talents and ability to get on with people is really very much to the fore. So do expect to have some brilliant conversations. When it comes to your neat vitality, the moon, the full moon in the third house could have an impact on your nervous system if you are feeling anxious about how everything is in a state of movement. But just know that overall, your planetary influences are actually very reassuring. And then in terms of relationships, it's true that Venus conjunct Uranus late last week may, if you don't feel that someone's been very truthful to you, you may have had an argument and you may have made it clear that you want to separate because you cannot be attached to someone who's not really open and transparent. But equally, don't be surprised this week if you're single that you are attracted to someone through your work in a public place or someone from a completely different age group. But through to the end of July, the North Node can still bring something magical into your world as far as a relationship is concerned. Have a great week, Virgo. Thank you so much for joining me and look forward to seeing you again soon.